first of all, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here, right? My name is Roman. I am the F&G for this segment. I am a systems engineer. Therefore, I answer questions honestly, and I talk technology. So if you have questions, I want to know. If I'm not being clear on something, please let me know. What we're talking about is how Veeam helps customers protect the data. So how many of you are in charge of protecting data at where you work? Okay? What happens if you fail at that job and data gets compromised? You lose the data. Do you get promoted? No. No, you get the opposite of a promotion, right? So what we do is we help with that protection. We make it real simple. And we're really, really good at it and have been doing this for a long time. The way we do this is we have the ability to talk natively to all these platforms. We're agnostic on the platform, whether it's physical, virtual, or hosted. We're agnostic on the software. We'll back up Windows just fine if that's all you have. We also back up Linux. And for those other folks out there, the artsy kind, we back up Macs also, right? Let's talk about the zip code, which is actually in Juarez, Mexico, if you look it up. But having 3 different copies of data on 2 completely different types of media gives you some redundancy. Keep one off-site. I'll tell you the story of a financial company that had their data and all their company in Tower 1, right? In the Twin Towers. Guess where their DR site was? Tower 2. What you want to make sure is that offsite copy isn't subject to the same disaster that took out the first site. That's a good rule of thumb. Also, make sure it's air-gapped, not reachable. I was talking to a gentleman from a university in central United States who was telling me that their assessor that went in and tried to compromise actually knew what they were doing. They had VMware instances in their offsite and onsite. Guess where they attacked? On-site. They went in and encrypted the data. They went in and changed the logs because most of your attacks come from behind the firewall anyway, right? And then they had no data. Well, we have this concept of immutability. It means you can't change it. It's hardened. We use hardened repositories. Again, we can make that hardened repository on a Windows server if that's all you have, but we also can do it on Linux, which has been around a lot longer and understands security from the ground up and understands how to do these things. Guess what? We make this a real simple process because you're not tasked with writing those scripts. You're not tasked with modifying the kernel. You're not tasked with creating your own keys, right? We do that for you. And then we also have the ability to make sure there's no errors. And the way we do that is we set up, and I'll show you this as well, we set up a sandbox or a virtual lab inside our software that you can test that backup. Oh, and by the way, we'll compress it, we'll dedupe it, and we'll scan it for malware for you. All part of the package. So before you restore your data, we're going to make sure it's good to go. So this is a little bit about what happens. You have your virtual machines from your storage going through our traffic cop. The application group lives, we spin them up inside a virtual lab. We re-IP everything so that it's not going to conflict with the rest of network. And then we create this thing called a sure backup job. We call it sure backup. That's just our naming for it, right? All that means is we're going to make darn sure that it's protected, that it's right, that it's not compromised by malware or viruses or any of that stuff, and that it's okay to restore. Let's say hypothetically, your chosen vendor for a domain controller, I'm not going to mention any names, has decided to send out some patches on, let's say, Tuesday. That happens, right? How do you know if that Patch Tuesday set of patches is going to be right for your environment? Do you test it in production on a domain controller? Some do, and some fail. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't you like to do that today, where you could just put it in a virtual lab and test it before getting it out to the rest of the network? Sure you would. It's okay to answer. Yeah, yes you would. And we can make that a very simple process. You can test fire these before deploying it. That's what's the differentiator here. Again, we are completely agnostic on the software that you use, the applications you use, and where you use them. You can argue now today, when you talk about work, it's no longer about where you go, it's about what you do. Work is more about what you do. So is the data. The data doesn't just live on your desktop. It doesn't just live at the data center. It also lives in the cloud, which is code name for somebody else's data center. That's what it means. So we can back it all up, and we can compress it, and we can deduplicate it. We're also giving you the ability inside of VMware to make all of our encryption dedupe friendly. What does that mean? Well, if you compress everything and encrypt it, it's basically a blob of data. How do you dedupe it? Well, we have ties into all of these major manufacturers out there that have deduplication hardware and software, and we can make it dedupe friendly, where we can basically do a secret handshake with them, deduplicate the data, and if you are choosing a storage vendor that pays you, or that you have to pay them based on the capacity you use, well, we can help you reduce that capacity. So that's the difference between us. Now, let's take this a step further. You see, on this chart, we've come a long ways with storage. We've been at it a long time, and we've become very good at it. We've grown our repertoire of people we can talk with, of storage vendors you can use. And let's say technology decisions happen. In government, command decisions happen. I know this firsthand, it being in the military, but command will say, we're going to do things different. We're going to use a different vendor. What does that mean to you? You've spent all your time backing up with Veeam. And this happens in the industry more often than you think, and we've got brochures, flyers, and all that stuff for follow-up. With Veeam, you own your data. We do not. Therefore, you should have access to your data, right? Let's say you have decided to stop doing business with Veeam. You decided, I'm not going to pay those guys anymore. You keep your data. We have a free tool that allows you to access that data as long as you want, lifetime. You can't back up new data without new licenses, but you can certainly access all the data you've ever backed up with Veeam. And that's our commitment to our customers as a thank you for doing business with Veeam. My name is Roman Gonzales. I'm a systems engineer. I answer questions honestly. I was asked to keep this very short to 15 minutes, but I'm happy to dive deeper with anybody that wants to talk more about this. To see some of the demonstrations we have to offer, I can go into exhausting detail and talk more about it. So thank you for your presence, patience, and perspicacity as I turn this back over to our host.